There are a few skills that all managers need to master in order to be effective in their roles. Of those skills, there's one that almost all managers think they do a good job of, but unfortunately, the reality is much the opposite, and that skill is delegation. How often do we see job postings or role descriptions that highlight this important skill as being critical to job success? All the time. Yet how much training does the average manager ever receive in this area? Next to none. My experience has consistently shown that no matter how junior or senior the manager, this is one area that is often overlooked when it comes to being an effective leader. If you are like most managers working in the corporate world, when you delegate, it probably looks something like this. Manager: hey employee, I need you to get this project done for me by next week. Can you do that? Employee: yes, I can do that for you. Any questions? No, I'll reach out if I need anything. Okay, great, thanks. If you have a strong team working underneath you, you might be able to get away with this approach, but I would be willing to wager that you have likely experienced a turned-in assignment that was not as you were expecting, was delayed unnecessarily, or had a lot of mistakes in it, no matter how strong the team underneath you. If you have a less than strong team underneath you, you have surely experienced this, and I have no doubt that it has led to varying degrees of frustration on your part, as well as a reluctance to delegate to that person or team moving forward. This, of course, is good for no one, as delegation is one of the most effective ways to develop our staff, which effectively grinds to a halt if we aren't giving them opportunities to grow and develop new skills and competencies. Or maybe you haven't seen the above scenario play out because you aren't delegating at all. You are of the belief that it's easier for you to just do the work yourself rather than delegate because you can do it faster than someone else, and it really doesn't take up much of your time, which can be especially true for smaller administrative tasks. Or perhaps you simply don't trust the people underneath you to be able to complete the work satisfactorily. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter why you hold on to it because the end result is the same. You work on things you shouldn't in lieu of your real work, which in turn has you work unnecessarily long hours to ensure you are also getting the work done, which then leads to progressive feelings of burnout. Sound familiar? Don't forget that your team might also feel as though you don't trust them and that you don't value their development because you are never giving them new opportunities for growth. Ultimately, everyone loses out when managers don't delegate. Despite it being one of the most poorly developed skills among managers, the good news is that it is one of the easiest skills to develop. Generally speaking, there are 3 keys to delegating effectively: knowing what to delegate, knowing who to delegate to, and knowing how to delegate. Before we can even get to the actual act of delegating, we need to start by knowing exactly what we should be delegating. This small but critical step is often overlooked by managers as they often feel they already know what needs to be delegated. While there is often a degree of truth to this statement, the unfortunate reality is that many managers often delegate tasks to the wrong people, delegate the wrong things, don't delegate at all, or aren't aware of the things they should be delegating. For every manager that does it right, at least one, if not more, are doing it wrong. To help us better identify what can and should be delegated, I'm going to walk you through a few different activities. It's important to capture these thoughts on paper, as seeing them versus thinking about them can help you better understand what you're doing well and where some gaps might be. The first exercise is to write out all the current tasks being delegated to your team members. I'm not talking about identifying the things they are doing as part of their jobs that they do without you asking. I'm talking about the specific things you ask them to do for you. This can be anything from administrative tasks to major projects or anything in between. The second exercise is to identify all the things you are currently doing as part of your day-to-day that in reality you think you should be delegating. This can be administrative tasks, attending meetings, leading or working on projects, or anything else that comes to mind. The third exercise is to engage in a delegation look-back exercise by reflecting on your past 2 to 4 weeks to identify all the things that you worked on that in retrospect you really should have delegated. Consider as well the things that you did delegate that maybe you shouldn't have, or that were maybe delegated to the wrong person. Essentially, if you could do it all over again, what would you have done differently? Once you've done these 3 exercises, take a moment to reflect on your findings. What comes to mind for you? Are you able to identify any gaps in your ability to delegate the right things? If so, don't worry, as this is the whole purpose of the exercise. You should now have a clear picture as to what you should be delegating moving forward. Regardless of your findings, the most important thing to keep in mind is that the past is the best predictor of the future. What I mean by this is that the same types of tasks or projects that you may or may not have been delegating, while they may be different in their individual nature, will likely continue to be of the same scope and complexity you will see in the future. The key is to not continue making the same delegation mistakes moving forward. Now that you are clear on what you should be delegating moving forward, the next step is to ensure you are delegating to the right people. When it comes to deciding who to delegate to, if you only have one direct report, your options are obviously more limited, and if you have no direct reports, then it's even harder. Having that been said, many managers are often in positions to delegate to indirect reports or to working group team members. For example, a project manager may have no direct reports, but since they lead a project team, can often delegate tasks to these team members. While this section applies to all managers, it is focused primarily on managers with direct reports, as this is by far where the vast majority of delegation opportunities are, between managers and their employees. Many managers often delegate to their people out of habit or routine, with top employees often getting the most tasks and the most challenging and high-value ones at that, while our lowest performers get little to no work delegated to them, or if they do, it's often the more routine or basic tasks. You see this play out a lot on sports teams, with superstars often getting the balance of playing minutes, while rookies and less skilled players get much less playing time or are often relegated to the bench. While this makes intuitive sense, as we want our best players in the game at any given time, if we only play our superstars, what happens is we are sacrificing long-term success for short-term performance. We see lots of examples of this where teams that play a more varied roster of players, which also means resting the top performers occasionally, often have much more long-term and consistent year-over-year success compared to teams who wear out their superstars. Their teams grow and develop all their players, which in turn lifts everyone collectively rather than just the lone one or two top performers. So how can you ensure you are delegating to the right people and that you are using delegation not only as a time management tool for yourself, but also as a developmental tool for all of your staff? You are going to create what I call a delegation matrix. While this sounds complex, it's rather straightforward and can be facilitated using the following table. Columns with employee names, and rows with strengths, weaknesses, development goals, current tasks assigned, and motivators. Anticipate spending a few minutes filling it out per employee of yours. Under strengths, list the things you feel employees excel at. This can be a skill set, area of knowledge, or niche expertise. Under weaknesses, identify the aspects of them where you feel there are skills, knowledge, or experience gaps, not performance gaps. We'll address these in the video about giving feedback. Under development goals, identify at a high level the areas where the employee wants to grow their skills, knowledge, or expertise. In current tasks assigned, identify the things you are currently delegating to them and the approximate time commitment needed to complete. In motivators, identify the specific things that you know or feel motivate the employee. This can be prestige, going for promotion, money, visibility, etc. If you are finding yourself stuck on identifying motivators or developmental goals, consider simply asking the employee. More information on this can be found in the video on running effective one-on-ones. Once you've filled out your table, what do you see? Are you loading certain people up while letting others off the hook? Or are you assigning all of the developmental and high-value projects to certain employees and not others? Or maybe you've simply got the wrong people doing the wrong tasks for them. Oftentimes, seeing the bigger picture when it comes to our current approach to delegation can make it very clear what we need to do differently moving forward. The final step is to now add a final row called delegation needs/gaps. In this row, look to identify either the types of tasks or the specific ones that you think need to be assigned to each employee moving forward. This may be net new tasks or projects, it may be reassignment from one employee to another, or it may be flagging that certain types of tasks need to be sent to a specific employee in the future. While completing this exercise is very helpful for most managers, this can't just be a one and done activity. Otherwise, we can all too easily fall back into our old ways. Ideally, you would be updating the table on a regular basis as tasks are completed or assigned, and as ongoing development conversations take place and employees' skills evolve over time. Keeping the spreadsheet easily accessible and visible is highly encouraged to ensure its continued use over time. If nothing else, my encouragement would be to review the spreadsheet at least on a monthly basis if you have more experienced staff working on longer-term initiatives, or weekly if you are managing primarily junior staff working with largely administrative tasks. Once we are clear on what we need to delegate and whom we need to delegate to, the final step is actually doing it. Now, before we get into the nuts and bolts of how to delegate, I want you to take a moment and reflect on the last thing you delegated to an employee. What did that conversation look like? Pause the video and take note of your approach before moving ahead, as you'll be referring back to that example in a few minutes. As mentioned in my introduction, most managers take a high-level approach to delegation, assuming that the employee knows what they want and how to get the job being assigned done. While you can have occasional success with this approach, most managers often find themselves frustrated with the final deliverable or how involved they had to be in getting the final work across the finish line. The reason for this is because we are not bringing in any accountability into the conversation. We are simply assuming it will get done as expected. No questions asked. The great news is that bringing accountability into the delegation conversation is a simple two-step process that any manager can master. Collectively, I call this accountable delegation. The first step in this process is to set clear expectations as to what the deliverable is, what success looks like to you, and when you need it by. The degree of detail you share will shift depending on the nature of the task or the level of competency or experience of the individual, but if in doubt, always lean towards being more specific over vague. For example, when assigning a project to a junior staff member, the expectation may look something like this. I need you to put together a 5-slide presentation deck using our standard internal template with no more than 5 high-level bullets on each slide outlining the business case for recommendation to go ahead with releasing the next feature update. Have one slide be an executive summary, one dedicated to background, another to our considerations, one to our evaluation process, and one to a summary of the recommendation. I need this in my inbox by 12 p.m. on Friday. For a more seasoned employee, the conversation might look a little different. I need you to put together a 5-page slide deck on our business case for going ahead with releasing the next feature update. Please keep slides to no more than 5 bullets and use the usual format for this presentation. I need this in my inbox by 12 p.m. on Friday. Both of these examples are a stark contrast to what we typically see for managers. I need you to put a slide deck together on our business case for going ahead with releasing the next feature update for me by Friday. Notice any differences? In the first example with the junior staff member, it is very clear with what is expected. As a result, it is much more likely they will be able to deliver what the manager is asking for and to their satisfaction. With the final example of what we typically see, there is far too much ambiguity about the task that it leaves it up to the employee to put together what they think you want, oftentimes missing the mark. Sometimes, no matter how specific we are with our expectations, the nature of the task itself may not be appealing to the employee, which can result in lots of foot dragging, low completion rates, or poor quality work. Sometimes it's grunt work that just needs to get done. Sometimes it's in an area that is not of interest to the employee for whatever reason, and other times it might come across as too complex. Regardless of the reason, the result is often the same. The employee is not motivated to do the task itself. To combat this, we can leverage what we know about employees' motivations, development areas, or strengths in the delegation matrix to help better position tasks and to help make them more meaningful for the employee. We can do this by leveraging introductory statements about why we are assigning the task to the employee. Examples include, I've got a project for you that is going to be going up to the executive team for review that I think you'd be a great fit for. This statement would be appealing to someone who is motivated by visibility. I have a task that I need to get done and I know you're the right person for it given your expertise and understanding of the topic. This would be appealing to the employee's strengths. I have a task for you that I think will help you develop your presentation skills. This one, of course, would be appealing to the employee's development areas. Here's an example of what it would look like to combine clear expectations with a motivational introductory statement. I have a project I'd like to assign you that is a great opportunity for you to get some visibility with other teams. I'm confident you can do a great job here as it really plays into your collaborative strength and is also a great opportunity for you to branch out and meet some leaders in other departments. What I need from you is a 5-page slide deck outlining our team's work on Project X that has been adopted by the finance and engineering teams. Please keep each slide to 5 bullet points and ensure we have background information, an overview of what our contributions to the project have been, the results each team has seen, and a summary page outlining our recommended next steps for broader integration within the operations team. Having this all been said, even if we do a great job of setting clear expectations on the delegated task and tying in caveat statements to help make the task more meaningful to the employee, they can still deliver it in an unanticipated fashion. Why is that? Well, it's because we didn't bring in any accountability into the delegation conversation itself, which leads us to step 2. After we've set clear expectations, the next thing we need to do is ask the employee a series of accountability questions to ensure that both you and them are on the same page with how they're going to get the work done. The line of questioning will differ depending on the complexity, visibility, and impact of the task, and on the capability or seniority of the individuals being assigned to. It is especially helpful for developmental tasks, large and complex tasks or projects, or when there are lots of moving parts or people involved. Sample accountability questions or requests include, I'd like you to put together a project plan for me to review before you get started. This is especially useful for bigger or more complex tasks. How do you plan to get this done? Are there any barriers that would prevent you from getting the task done as asked? What supports do you need? Where will you go to get the relevant information? Who do you plan to connect with? Well, these are just samples. Which questions you choose to ask and how much detail you want are all up to you and should change based on the nature of the task and experience of the employee. The key though is that you should always ask these questions before the work gets started. The reason for this is that by doing so, you put yourself in a position to coach the employee and course correct now rather than having to fix things later, which is often much more work and can be demoralizing or demotivating for the employee. It also positions the employee to think critically about a task and take ownership over it. You can then validate their approach, therefore empowering them to go and execute on their own ideas, something that we've seen is a huge driver behind employee development. Or you can course correct as needed and use it as a teaching opportunity, and you can fill in any missing pieces. It has the added benefit of you knowing how the employee plans to get things done, which should help you as the manager feel much more comfortable letting the task go if you're the type of person who typically hesitates to delegate for reasons tied to lack of trust. Finally, in future check-ins, you are more likely to check in against progress to date on the project plan versus having to find out what they are working on, and unfortunately, oftentimes uncovering things are not progressing as you would have expected. Now let's take a look at what layering motivational introductory statements, setting clear expectations, and leveraging accountability questions might look like together. I have a project I'd like to assign you that is a great opportunity for you to get some visibility with other teams. I'm confident you can do a great job here as it really plays into your collaborative strength and is also a great opportunity for you to branch out and meet some leaders in other departments. What I need from you is a 5-page slide deck by Friday at 12 p.m. outlining how our team's work on Project X has been adopted by the finance and engineering teams. Please keep each slide to 5 bullet points and ensure you have background information, an overview of what our contributions to the project have been, the results each team has seen, and a summary page outlining our recommended next steps for broader integration within the operations team. Given the high-profile nature of the presentation, before you get started, I'd like to run through your approach to collecting the information from the finance and engineering teams, who you plan to connect with, and what information you think will be most valuable to include. This is a whole different approach than simply asking for a presentation on how the team's work has been adopted by their groups. I'm sure you'll agree there is a high probability that the work will be done on time and to a high degree of quality using this approach. While there's a lot of value in asking accountability questions when delegating, I want to be clear that it is not suitable for certain situations. Routine tasks, highly administrative tasks, simple tasks, or quick requests are not appropriate times to use this technique. You will likely erode trust with your staff members and come across as a micromanager. While true for all levels of employees, this is especially true for experienced employees. Tasks where the employee would likely not have any idea how to get something done are also inappropriate. New staff who have never done something before or are learning the basics of their role will be unable to answer most, if not all, accountability questions. They may need direction, and that is completely okay. However, after they've had a chance to work on tasks of similar complexity or have become more experienced, then it's more appropriate to start asking accountability questions. There are also a few final considerations for leveraging accountability questions when delegating. Number 1, for more complex tasks, the employee will likely be unable to tell you how they plan to get the task done in the moment, as they'll often need time to think about it. That is perfectly okay and to be expected. To manage this, give the employee time to reflect and schedule a follow-up conversation to run through the project plan at a future date. This can often be completed in 1 to 2 business days. Number 2, this may be a significant departure from your typical approach to delegation, and it may catch your employees off guard, especially if you've been working with them for a long time. To help get them used to your new approach, don't hesitate to use caveat statements when asking accountability questions. For example, you could say, as this is a very big project, it would be really helpful for me if you could come up with a project plan that we can review before you get started. Or, this is a very busy time right now and there are a lot of projects on the go at the moment. As such, it would be really helpful for me if you could talk me through your next steps on getting this done, so I would have one less thing to worry about. Alternatively, you could also reset expectations with the team that moving forward, you'll be asking more questions when assigning tasks to help better understand what's going to be getting done up front, so that you don't have to be as involved when it comes to actually doing the work. Of course, you can use whatever reason you like, but the key here is to let them know of your shift in approach and the reasons behind it, so that they aren't left to believe there's a lack of trust in their abilities. In summary, there are 3 keys to delegation: what, who, how. it is valuable to revisit how you are leveraging each step on a regular basis and fine-tuning your approach as time goes on. There is value in periodically checking in on what you are assigning, holding yourself to account, and ensuring you are delegating the appropriate tasks to the right people. Leveraging a delegation table is also a great tool that can help you better keep track of the work you are dispensing, but also ensure you are giving equal opportunity to staff members. Lastly, where appropriate, you can ensure that your employees take more ownership and feel empowered to do great work through keeping them accountable to the work you assign them. Remember that example I asked you to think of earlier in the video about a recent task you assigned to an employee? Take a moment to reflect on that example and compare it to the content shared in this video. What did you do well, and what could you have done differently? With that, I hope you enjoyed this video on delegation.